When have we heard Beyonce sound like this, right? I mean, the phono stage now sounds more like a M10 power amp compared to how the P1 demonstrate its strengths. How many of us ever thought that this is engineered so well? Because we usually listen to it on our radios, right? In our cars. This is an incredibly fantastic album. That is one that we should all purchase. Because we've already gotten all this at home. Why not have some fun with it? Popular music is today recorded so well. I just got a Taylor Swift CD because I have grandkids at home. They love, love, love dancing in my little music room. I am discovering so much more music because of them. It's just a blast. We have some more new music. Oh yeah, this is one of my favorite albums. Abby Fons worked on this album too, good friend of ours. Wasn't that just sublime? Isn't this what it's all about? To the guys that really want this, right? Only the best will do, right? That is what you get, ladies and gentlemen, when you get P10 monos. Like my buddy Kevin says, go big or go home. And this is what we do. So applause. Yeah, baby. This is what it's all about. Now we're gonna play some Dire Straits. Why? That way you guys can re-listen to something that you have missed listening to. An engineer friend of mine was right here. He was walking by and he said, Sunil, for the first time, I am listening to reproduced music that I actually heard on my headphones while I was recording it. That is as big a compliment as somebody can pay you. Enjoy.
Find the street light, steps out of the shade, says something like, you and me, baby.
Quick story. It's 1980. I'm a kid studying in Mumbai. I grew up in Mumbai. It's raining heavily, July 16th. My dad takes me on a bus. Pouring rain. We had raincoats, we were drenched. We go to Rhythm House, which is about 45-minute bus ride. That was my first Dire Straits album. I will never forget that day. Listening to this reminds me of how wonderfully well my dad raised me. And it's a great reminder to give albums to kids that come to school, come to your store and share that love that we all have for music, because that's what makes this all happen. Thank you so much. I love this presentation. Now we're going to have Mr. Roy Gregory do some curves demos. I hope you enjoyed it. Awesome. Thank you.
We'll give you the condensed version. One of the facilities that the phono stages from CH Precision offer is adjustable EQ curves. And when they were first designing the original P1, they came to a number of reviewers and they said, what do you want on a phono stage? If you could have your perfect phono stage, what do you want? And various people said, oh, I want this many inputs, I want this, I want that, I want the other. And I said, I want curves, I want EQ curves. And so they put the EQ curves on, but every time they now want to demonstrate them, they call me. So, and EQ curves, for people who are unfamiliar with the phrase, are what happens when you replay a record. To get a recording onto a micro groove disc, when you cut it, you basically have to cut the bass and boost the treble so that the groove is manageable on the record. And when you replay it, you have to apply an inverse of that boost and cut. And so essentially the thing gets bent out of shape when it's put on the disc, and then the system puts it back into shape. And originally, back when microgroove records first appeared, everybody had a different curve, and this was madness because every curve was different. You didn't know what was happening. And in '54, the major labels got together and said, look, we're going to harmonize, we're going to settle on RIAA. Fine. So from '56 onwards, everything is supposed to be RIAA. So you might wonder why we have curves on a phono stage. And mostly people assume it's about old records. And this is an old record. This is 52, mono. It's very rare, not inexpensive. And this is Camilla Wicks, who was a young American violinist of phenomenal talent, absolutely incredible talent. And she made this recording at the age of 22. And about 3 years later, she got married and stopped recording. That was the time. And she was such a loss to the classical music world. So we're going to play this for you first, and we're going to play it on the RIAA curve. Okay. It's a mono disc. It's Sibelius. It's okay. What we're going to do now is change it onto the Capitol curve, because this is a Capitol record label. You can really hear the difference in the playing, the sensitivity, the phrasing, the control of the bow, the expression in the playing. And for people who say that curves are really just tone controls, this is not a tone control. This is a fundamental difference in the sense and sensibility of the music. How enjoyable, how convincing this recording is. It makes the recording more like life. And it's a really big change. And this is on a record from 1952. And it's an old classical record. And a lot of people don't listen to old classical records. They think, well, what's it got to do with me? So, Rolling Stones. This is 1964. So 6 years after supposed, no, 8 years, sorry, after supposed harmonization. This is not a first pressing. So this is probably 2-3 years after that, so probably 67. So 1967, and we'll play it with the RIAA curve, and then we'll play it with the Decca. But we're going to switch it to Decca curve. Okay, no comparison. This is actually a dance band. They're great. And this is clearly not a tone control. This has a intense effect on the rhythmic integrity of the piece, on the tempo, on the presentation, the balance, the bandwidth. You know, it sounded like a transistor radio before. Now it's done this. It's still not a fantastic recording, but what it is fantastic music. And one of the beauties of these phono stages is, although they're expensive, it does mean you can go and buy a record like that for £1, which is kind of cool. So, not a tone control. How about it only applies to old records? So, this is Guidon Kremer. It's a Melodia original recording, pressed by Deutsche Grammophon for the German market. And this was the recording, live concert recording with Tomakanov and this is the recording that made his career. Not nice. Screechy, turgid, slow, altogether not great. And you know, it's the Tchaikovsky Violin Concerto. You have got hundreds of choices for this piece, hundreds of different recordings with different artists, different conductors. And although on paper this should be great, one of the world's greatest conductors, you know, an emerging talent, shining bright. You listen to that and you think, why would I even bother with this? But DG never really adopted RIAA. Right up to the first point where they stopped pressing records, they used the Teldec curve. So we'll replay this with Teldec. So Mr. Kremer can play. Again, the same thing with Camilla Wicks, but actually more so. A greater sense of sensitivity, phrasing, shape. This is a great record, and it probably costs you about $5. If you have a curve on your phono stage to suit it, that's a bargain. Now, there is a spy in the room. There is a spy with a customer who specifically wants to know about Philips records. So, we're going to play you a Philips. And if you approach the classical establishment and ask them for a list of the 10 greatest pianists of all time, it's a pretty sure bet Claudio Auro is going to be on there somewhere. And if you listen to the records, you think, why? Because they really don't sound that great. He does not sound like a fantastic pianist. So here we have Claudio Auro playing Debussy. And again, first, of course, on RIAA. Okay. You get the idea. Fairly prosaic, a little bit plonky, rather wooden. So we're going to put this onto the Philips curve. So, do you think John's going to be happy? Than the RIAA version. And now, finally, nothing to do with curves, but just for fun. This is a DMM Copper Master. So, it's not a direct cut. It comes from a tape, but this is cut directly by the lathe, and this is what they use to make stampers. So this actually is on loan from Brinkman Records. We thank them very much. Or sorry, Brinkman Turntables, I should say. And they released a 33rd anniversary record to celebrate, and this is one of the tracks from it. And this is a jazz trio recorded in 2014. So I mean, what they didn't want to do was they did not want to do like a standard audiophile repressing of like yet another Aldo Meola disc or whatever. So they went out and they found a band that owned their own music And this is actually a German-American jazz trio with a drummer called Steve Gadd, who's very well known. Cool. So, do we like that? Sounds cool, huh? Good. It's digital and it's MQA. And it still sounds great. So, technology is an interesting animal, and it's only as good as what you do with it. And this is cool. So, thank you very much for coming. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.